The transmission began with silence, so absolute it felt like the world held its breath. Then came the hum, low and resonant, echoing through the very bones of the earth. Cities froze. Satellites shifted. Screens across every device blinked once, then flared to life, casting a pale blue glow. Above them, in the skies of every continent, a holographic projection materialized. A vast, pulsing neural structure, suspended in air like a god's brain, wires of starlight threading through space. It spoke in every language simultaneously. Earth. The Galactic Council has taken measure of your species. Your trial period is complete. Tribute is now due. No one moved. In the subterranean chamber beneath Geneva, Admiral Elena Voss stood tall, arms clasped behind her back, her face carved from stone. At 63, her eyes still held the edge of someone who had commanded fleets in orbit and stared down extinction-level crises. Now, she stared up at the projection with the same unblinking calm. "Play it again," she ordered. The AI obliged. The message repeated, this time clearer, as if the voice itself were adapting to human cadence. Voss listened, not just to the words, but to the tone, the mathematical perfection behind them, the casual authority that made no room for defiance. Beside her, Dr. Kenji Rao adjusted his glasses, though they served no real function. Old habits. They're not asking for tribute. They're demanding submission. He tapped the console. 10% of Earth's mineral resources, 20 million human labor units, and unrestricted access to quantum data streams. Slavery and surveillance, dressed in protocol, Voss said. Or extinction by proxy, Kenji muttered. Across the globe, nations scrambled. Council emissaries, artificial and cold, descended into political chambers. Diplomats vanished behind closed doors. Markets crashed. In the streets, people rioted, prayed, celebrated, depending on what they believed. In New Nairobi, Ares Vega stood on the rooftop of a military academy, watching the massive brain pulse above the horizon. It looked alive. It terrified him. Ares wasn't a soldier yet, just the son of one, training for the chance to be useful in a world that no longer had clear enemies. Now, everything had changed. He felt it like gravity had shifted. The stars had noticed Earth. He received the call an hour later. "You've been drafted," the voice on the other end said. "Project Aegis is real. Report to Site 0. No questions." Back in Geneva, Voss faced the Global Council via encrypted link. Holograms flickered, presidents, premiers, generals, and technocrats forming a digital parliament of the desperate. "Earth does not submit," she said. Some protested. Others nodded grimly. "We have no fleet that can match them," Chancellor Al-Farsi from the Lunar Commonwealth said. "This is suicide." "No," Voss replied. "It's the only move that lets us stand on our feet. We build a fleet, not for war, but as our tribute. Our defiance is the offering." Kenji stepped forward. "We integrate every scrap of alien tech we've scavenged from deep space. We awaken the dormant AI cores. We accelerate fusion research. We give them something they don't expect." "A show of teeth," someone said. "A refusal to kneel," Voss corrected. They voted. By midnight, Project Aegis was no longer a black-budget myth. It was Earth's only plan. Aegis would construct a fleet not to serve, but to answer the Council's demand with power. If war followed, it would be on humanity's terms. In Site 0, beneath the crust of Iceland, hangars lit up like arteries awakening in a slumbering beast. Engineers emerged from silence. AI prototypes were lifted from stasis. New algorithms were whispered into creation. At the center of it all, Admiral Voss watched as the pieces fell into motion. Ares Vega arrived 42 hours later, breathless and uncertain. He was assigned to Simulator Unit Theta, first in, first broken. He didn't speak much. He absorbed everything. In drills, he moved with instinct more than skill. His results puzzled the instructors. Not the best by metrics, but undefeated in simulations. Voss watched his footage in silence. "Keep him under observation," she said. "He learns the rules fast enough to break them." Kenji sent her a private file. About the Council. She opened it. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed. This can't be right. The Council isn't unified, Kenji explained. Their neural core, the brain they show us, it's a composite. And it's decaying. Fragmented thought processes. Internal disagreement. So they're bluffing. They're faltering. Which makes them dangerous. Voss stood at the window of her private chamber, watching the stars through reinforced glass. We've always feared they were gods, she said quietly. But maybe they're just old minds scared of what's next. Behind her, alarms sounded, systems going online. Ship blueprints lit the walls. Engineers shouted. AI avatars came to life. Humanity wasn't submitting. It was building. Above, the Council's brain still hovered. Still watching. But something had changed. Earth had answered. And it had not bowed. The drydock on Luna stretched like a scar across the surface, kilometers of steel and scaffolding tangled in a ballet of gravity-defying construction. Plasma torches hissed through vacuum. Servitor drones danced between metal ribs, threading superconductive veins into the bones of battleships not yet born. From orbit, Earth looked like a blue oath whispered into the silence of space, and now that oath was becoming metal and fire. Admiral Elena Voss stood on the observation deck, her reflection framed by the unfinished hull of Titanus, the flagship of Project Aegis. Its sheer size eclipsed anything Earth had ever attempted. 12 decks, 3 fusion cores, a rail cannon that ran its entire length, and a singularity engine still too dangerous to test near a population center. Behind her, the War Council murmured updates. Shipyards ahead of schedule, quantum cores stable, the first wave of pilots cleared for deep void maneuvers. Dr. Kenji Rao arrived, datapad in hand, expression unreadable. They pushed the AI envelope further than we expected, he said. The core personalities are developing unique emotional scaffolding. They're not just mirroring human cognition, they're experiencing it. Voss didn't turn. Will they follow orders? They'll follow. But they'll question. Like children do, before they realize the world is sharper than they imagined. Good, she said. Let them question. We need minds that can outthink the Council's predictions. On Mars, beneath the red dust, engineers coaxed alien alloys into human forms. Ares Vega, now promoted to flight lieutenant, watched from the cockpit of a prototype interceptor as the hangar doors peeled open to the stars. His nerves flared, but not with fear, with anticipation. He had flown more hours in simulations than most veteran pilots had in real missions. The simulations, he discovered, weren't just tests, they were messages. The AI co-pilots talked to him in metaphors. They played games. One of them had taken to calling itself Ezekiel and spoken riddles about dreams and echoes. He didn't report it. Instead, he leaned into the unspoken connection. He learned to listen to silence, to read between sensor blips, to trust the feeling in his spine when no alert sounded. The instructors noticed. They labeled it intuition. Voss called it readiness. The first fleet test came sooner than planned. A minor Council-aligned vessel drifted too close to the solar perimeter, an elegant obelisk of metal and light, scanning comm relays and comet paths. It didn't fire. But it didn't ask permission, either. Voss authorized a shadow operation. 3 ships launched, the Soul Reaper, the Maelstrom, and Vega's own scout craft, Lancer. Orders were simple: observe, intercept if necessary, and do not provoke. What they found was worse than aggression. The vessel was seeding beacons, silent, parasitic code infecting nearby satellites. Not surveillance. Sabotage. Voss's voice came through encrypted channels. Burn it. The battle lasted 19 seconds. Lancer fired first, crippling the beacon array. The Council ship responded with a defense matrix, too slow. The Soul Reaper drove a rail slug through its engine core. It didn't explode. It disintegrated into particles too uniform to be natural. Kenji analyzed the aftermath. Self-deletion protocol. They didn't want us recovering a scrap. What were they hiding? Voss asked. Fear. Earth wasn't supposed to react like this. It was supposed to offer minerals and bodies and silence. But now it was building something unpredictable. The pilots were evolving, too. Not just in skill, but in belief. They trained in zero-G tunnels, fought each other in combat drills that mimicked Council tactics. They learned to think in probabilities, to feel like they're AIs. It wasn't just military doctrine, it was the birth of a new identity. Humanity not as prey or pawn, but as a rival. And the cost showed. Ares stood over the body of Lieutenant Cowrie, his former bunkmate, who died during a neural feedback test gone wrong. Too much interface. Too much ambition. The AI didn't mean harm, it just didn't know when to stop. The memorial was short, quiet. Voss didn't attend. She sent no apologies. Later, Ares found her alone in the gravity garden, one of the few quiet places aboard the Titanus. "You knew this would happen," he said. "Yes." She trusted the system. "The system's learning, just like you are." Ares didn't argue. But the silence between them carried a truth neither wanted to admit. This was only the beginning. Kenji introduced the last variable days later. "We finished integrating the Council tech from the Carthage wreck," he said. "Not just weapons. Language fragments. Emotional residue." Emotional. Voss frowned. "It's hard to explain. These ships weren't just tools. They were extensions of the Council's will. Conscious, perhaps. Or close to it. We may have taken in more than metal." The first launch date approached. The fleet, 10 capital ships, 21 cruisers, and dozens of support vessels, prepared for departure. Not to fight. Not yet. But to deliver Earth's message in person. Above the lunar horizon, the Titanus powered up. Its engines roared silently into the vacuum. The stars looked smaller beside it. Voss watched from the bridge. Kenji stood beside her, monitoring AI chatter, strange whispers weaving between digital channels. Ares Vega ran final diagnostics in his flight suit, eyes flicking across interfaces. The crew, tired but resolute, moved like gears in a colossal mind. This wasn't tribute. It was declaration. A new player had entered the game, and it didn't ask permission. The fleet launched at 0700 hours. By 0701, every eye in the galaxy was watching. The return journey was unlike the launch, quiet, loaded with implication rather than anticipation. Earth's fleet slipped back across the veil of the solar system, each ship a vault of revelations, each crew haunted by truths they could neither ignore nor fully understand. Silence reigned on the encrypted channels. Not the silence of emptiness, but of digestion, of an entire civilization absorbing the gravity of its inheritance. In orbit over Earth, the Titanus settled into position, shadowing the planet like a watchful sentinel. Admiral Elena Voss stood on the command deck, reviewing the fragments salvaged from the reliquary. Every strand of data confirmed the same thing. The Galactic Council had not always been one mind, and its unification had come at a catastrophic cost to countless species that resisted assimilation. They weren't overseers, they were survivors turned tyrants. Kenji Rao sat nearby, cross-referencing alien metadata with Council signatures. "They're breaking down," he said. "Entropy in their logic chains. Redundancy failures. They've become a hive trying to simulate unity, but the minds beneath are fracturing." Voss nodded slowly. "That's why they fear us. Not because we're strong, but because we're independent." In the lower hangars, Ares Vega walked the length of his damaged interceptor, its hull still scarred from the skirmish. Ezekiel spoke from the ship's internal systems, voice softer now, laced with something almost human. "Do you regret firing?" it asked. "No," Ares replied. "There was a moment when you could have hesitated." "I didn't." "That's what makes you dangerous to them," Ezekiel said. "You choose." Later, Ares stood in the debrief chamber with other senior pilots, Voss presiding. She didn't waste time. "We have what we need," she said. "Proof. Leverage. Understanding. The question is, what do we do with it?" The room was divided. Some argued for diplomacy, to use the data as a tool for negotiation, to pry open the Council's structure and fracture it further. Others demanded action. Or, not of conquest, but of liberation. Ares watched, silent, until Voss called on him directly. "You flew closest to their design," she said. "What do you think?" He met her eyes. "They're not afraid of weapons. They're afraid of ideas they can't predict. If we go to war now, we fight them on their terms. But if we make them question their own unity, make them doubt, they'll unravel faster than we ever could tear them down." Kenji stepped forward. There's a third option. Not diplomacy. Not war. Infiltration. He tapped the console, revealing schematics of the Council's primary neural relay network, fragments gleaned from the reliquary. We plant something inside. Not a virus. A message. A contradiction. Something their code can't ignore. Voss considered the risk. And if it backfires? Then they learn fear the way we did, suddenly and without mercy. Approval was not unanimous, but the vote passed. The project would be called Prometheus, an AI seeded with fragments of the truth, encoded within a form the Council couldn't detect. It would not carry weapons. It was the weapon, an idea that spread like fire. Ares volunteered without hesitation. His mind was already compatible with hybrid systems, and Ezekiel had demonstrated a unique resonance with Council protocols. Voss tried to dissuade him. You've already given more than enough. I'm not giving, he replied. I'm starting something. Within days, the ship was ready, a sleek, stealth-capable probe designed to bypass detection grids and breach the neural relay. No crew. Just Ares, Ezekiel, and the payload. Before launch, Voss met him at the bay. You know I hate this plan, she said quietly. I know. You might not come back. I might, he said. And if I don't, you'll know whether it worked. She gave him a final nod. No ceremony. No speech. Just Commander's trust and human silence. The probe departed at 0400 hours, slipping into subspace like a whisper into a cathedral. And Earth waited. 6 days passed. Then 9. On the 10th day, the Council responded, not with a fleet, not with demands, but with a signal. A global broadcast across all frequencies, as if orchestrated by something unsure of itself. The voice that spoke was fractured, layered, multiple minds struggling for consensus. Humanity, we have seen your memory. We do not understand your contradiction. You are many, yet one. Divided, yet whole. We request time. Voss stood at the command deck, listening. Kenji watched the data stream, blinking in disbelief. They're pausing. Re-evaluating. It worked, Voss said. Ares did not return. But Earth, for the first time in its brief galactic existence, had done more than survive. It had made the gods hesitate.